All right, guys, stay tuned, and we're going to talk about how to estimate your property taxes.
You better get fired up.
Man, so property taxes are kind of a hot topic right now in the local Florida government here, and we'll see if we even have them. But until we get rid of them, I want to make sure that you guys are fully aware of how to estimate your taxes. Now, you can go online to PASLC.gov. That's Property Appraiser St. Lucie County, PASLC.gov. And there's a property tax estimator built in for you. It is conservative. It's on the higher end. You're generally going to pay less than what it says, which I think is a good thing. But I like to educate people, man. And I like to educate people because I am in the mode of being out with buyers and they're saying, Joe, what am I going to pay for taxes on this? Joe, what am I going to pay for taxes on that? Oh, Joe, this is a $550,000 home. Taxes are $4,000. I love this one. Pump the brakes. It's not going to be $4,000 for you, right? So I want to start talking about this. So my perspective is you are a buyer and you can calculate roughly what your taxes are going to be. Okay. So first of all, let's talk about this. When you purchase a home and you're getting financing, that financing, whether it's a VA mortgage, an FHA mortgage, or a conventional mortgage, is going to be calculated based on the current taxes, which may be higher than you'll be paying. They may be lower than you'll be paying. Okay. They're almost assuredly not what you'll be paying. So realize that. Why? Because when January 1st rolls around and you've got new tax amounts out there, your taxes are in most cases, not all cases, going to go up, and they're going to go up dramatically. You need to know that and to know by roughly how much. That way you're prepared. Okay. So when it comes to getting funding and getting approved for funding, it helps to, in most cases, have the lower taxes, although sometimes it's higher, right? But realize that it's going to go up dramatically. Now, if you're buying new construction, that new construction lot, right, even though they're building a home, it's being taxed as if it's a vacant lot because it hasn't sold to somebody as a home yet. So you might be paying taxes on a lot that's assessed at $100,000, and you're building a home that's going to be worth $700,000. Well, now your assessed value is going to be closer to 700 than 100. It's going to go up dramatically. Not everybody has explained that. And then they're frustrated when those taxes go up. I want to make sure that you realize that, okay? Also realize that there's a homestead exemption of $50,000. So if you're buying a home for, let's say, $350,000, and that current person, let's say they purchased it for 20 grand more. They purchased it for 370. All right. And they're selling it to you for 350 because that particular market is down. Their assessed value is going to be closer to 370. And they're not getting the $50,000 deduction because maybe they're renting it out or it's a secondary home or whatever, right? It's just non-homestead. So they're paying taxes based on a $370,000 taxable value. You're going to purchase it at $350,000, but then you're going to get a $50,000 homestead exemption, assuming that you're going to live there and homestead it. Your taxable value is going to be closer to $300,000. So that is, quick math, roughly 20%, a little bit more lower. Your taxes, therefore, are probably going to be about 20% lower, right? So let's dig in and look at an actual tax bill here. I took share screen. I took a tax bill and I sanitized it, so I don't think there's any personal information on there. I put it in Canva here. So we're going to go through this, and I'm on page 2 because I want to explain some of these things before we talk about taxes, right? You'll see there's 2 pages, this page and this page. Let's start with page 1 just so it's less confusing. Okay, so when you come down, you've got 3 columns. So column 1, and you can see it says right at the top here, is your last year's tax rate and property taxes. Okay, column 2 is this year, and column 3 is this year if the budget change is made. Column 2 is if no budget change is made. All right, so typically I'm looking at column 3. That's what I'm interested in. Now, when you look at this, let's just focus on column 3, okay? So you can go line by line. We've got a category of general county, public schools, municipality, water management, independent districts, voter approved debt service, and then you've got your total property tax down here. So within each one of those categories, you've got subcategories: St. Lucie County General Fund, jail and law enforcement, erosion district E, mosquito control, county transit. You've got all these different things. So a lot of people will say, oh my gosh, county taxes are so high, city taxes are so high, blah, 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 blah. You can come on and see what is city, what is county. This is city right here, municipality, Port St. Lucie. There's your city tax. So of the total 8143, 1288 of it is coming from the city of Port St. Lucie. Okay. By state law for public schools, 91742. By local board for public schools, 97762. I don't know if that board is city or county. I think it's county, but I don't know. That I don't know. General county, this is all county. Okay, so all of these 5 are coming from the county. Independent districts, I don't know if that's considered city or county, honestly. But you've got the fire district, the inland navigation district, and children's services. Then you've got PSL voted debt. What are those? Those, I'm guessing, are going to be referendums where they say, hey, we want to fund X thing, whatever that is. It's going to cost this much. Do you want to vote for it, yes or no? And we as a community said, yes, we vote for that thing. Okay, that's PSL voted debt. And it could be, I'm not saying probably, it could be one thing. It could be multiple things wrapped into one, all under the heading PSL voted debt. Okay, so we chose that. That's not politicians. That's us as people choosing that. Now, if you've got questions on any one of these things, over here on the right, it'll tell you when the meetings are, right? Public hearings, proposed taxes and budget will be held. And then it's got the dates, the locations, and the times. And then it's got a phone number. And I'll tell you, I have called that phone number to ask questions a couple times, and it's always been extremely informative, very helpful, and they've properly answered whatever question I've had. It's been great. Okay. So you might say, let's just focus on this green one. Okay. The right column under green is the amounts. 1162.24 goes to the SLC General Fund. 751.32 goes to jail and law enforcement. $27.53 goes to erosion district E. All right. What are these numbers over here? 4.2222, 2.7294. Those are your millage rates. That's how much, if I understand this correctly, I remember correctly, that's how much per $1,000 you're valued goes towards that particular thing. So if you've got a home worth double what, no, that's wrong. If you've got a home with a taxable value, we'll talk about the difference of those two things, double of mine, with exceptions, there's asterisks to this too, your taxes should be exactly double of mine, right? Because it's not based on a flat amount. It's based on a millage rate per $1,000 of taxable value you have. Okay, so you can go down and see what the bigger things in are. So what are the top, let's say, 3 things on this list? Well, there's 5 that are over $3 per thousand. So the SLC General Fund is 4.2222. That's the second highest. Here's another one. Public schools, state law and local board are both over 3.0480 and 3.2480. Port St. Lucie is the biggest at 4.6807, but it's also only 1. It's 1 line item. And then the other big one here is the fire district. That's at exactly 3. Okay. So when you look at it, oh, they don't add it up. Do they add it up anywhere? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't see it. But if you were to add all of these up, right, everything in this column right here, that would be your total millage rate. And then you can kind of do the math. So coming down here, you can see all of this up here. Does it say it? I don't see that it says it. And maybe I chopped it off because, again, I tried to sanitize this. But down here, this little box is your non-ad valorem. Okay. And then this up here is your ad valorem. So if you are, I know a lot of people are 100% disability rated through the VA. You get this ad valorem dropped. You don't pay that, but you still have to pay non-ad valorem. So what are these four things? So one, this is your levying authority. Who's charging it? Port St. Lucie, Stormwater and Tradition O&M, and the bond for PSL for solid waste. This talks about the purpose, which it doesn't really talk about the purpose. It just gives you the same thing as above. It gives you a date of a meeting, a time, a location, and then a phone number you can call. And again, I've called these numbers, very helpful. These are your units. These are your rates. And then over here is the amount that you're paying. I got kind of scrunched together. So one unit of 189 should be $189. It actually floated into two columns there. But you can see they total $1827.38. So when you add, I want to make sure this is correct. I'm pretty sure it is. The $63.15.67 from the ad valorem to the $1827.38 from the non-ad valorem, that gives you $81.43.05. That's what this particular person is paying in property taxes. Now, let's come down to this second page. Up here is your market value. Okay, so they're saying this property last year was worth $373. This year it came down. They're saying properties values came down to $352,700. So what they're going to do is when you purchase that property at 400 grand, they're going to give you a market value. It's not always 400 grand. I don't know how they calculate that, but in my view, what I'm watching, it's usually right around 90% of that. That's what I tell my people to kind of assume. If you want to be conservative, keep it at 100%. But if you bought it for 400, the market value is usually going to be somewhere around 360. If you buy at 500, it's going to be somewhere around 450, right? 90%. That's a Joe Rosen guess. That is not something that I know. But then if it's homestead, that market value is not your taxable value. Okay. So what they do is they take your market value and they compare it to an assessed value. Now, here, this person, their assessed value is $321,664. Why is that lower than the market value of $352,700? Because their homestead, and I know their homestead because I can see they have first homestead, an exemption of 25 grand, and an additional homestead of another 25 grand. They also have a veteran disability of $5,000. So they're getting a $55,000 exemption. That's last year. This year, they changed the law where this second one can increase. So this person's actually getting $55,722. Okay. But when they purchase the property, let's just go with this example, the $500,000 home, right? They're going to say, hey, your assessed value, your taxable value are both $450. But now property values, let's go back to like 2020, 2021, 2022, when property values were going through the roof. So now your home isn't worth 500, it's worth 600. Let's just go crazy. Well, your assessed value does not go up to 600. The amount you pay taxes on does not go up to 600. It was at 450 because your homestead, now if you weren't homestead, yes, it would go up dramatically. But because your homestead, it's capped at a 3% increase annually. So 3% on 450 is what? 13,500. So it would go up to 463,500. I think that's right. It would go up to 463,500, even though your property's worth $600,000. That's why you guys know a lot of 60, 70, 80-year-olds in Port St. Lucie who've lived in the same house for 30, 40 years, and their property taxes are $900. And you're saying, how? Their home is $500,000, $600,000. That doesn't make any sense. It's because they've taken advantage of that 3% cap annually for decades, right? Especially through this last jump in property values. So right now, the assessed value is 321,664. That's not true. That's last year. This year it's 330,992. The exemptions this year are 55,722 for county, meaning that the taxable value, the 330,992 minus the 55,722, brings you down to a taxable value of 275,270. So when we're looking at these numbers, these millage rates, they're based off of these taxable values. Now, all of these values are going to be the same, 275, 270, except for public schools. Public schools does not allow you that additional homestead, the one that was 25 grand and now it's 25,722. You do not get that when it comes to public schools. You get it with everything else. That's why public schools, they give you a $30,000 exemption and you're at 300,922. That's for the public school taxing authority. So now it's crunched off all that. So how do I, have I gone through? Okay, so now Save Our Homes. I'm getting onto something else, but we'll come back to this. Save Our Homes is all of those caps. If properties go up 6%, but you're capped at 3%, you just saved that other 3%. And then next year it goes up 4%, but you're capped at 3%. So that 1%, that's part of that Save Our Homes savings. So this particular person, as of last year, had 51,336 in Save Our Home savings. This year it came down dramatically to 21,708. Why? Because this number, 373, came down to 352.7. I don't know if those will match exact. Let's do the math here. That's 20,300. Yes. If I add 20,300 to this number, it would be 40,208. So no, it's not exactly the same. So I don't know exactly how that was calculated, but I do know that the fact that this dropped to this that's the biggest impact on that. Is there anything else below here? No, not that you care about. So now, how do we calculate rough taxes? Now, this is assuming that you can already, whether you own a home or not, you can still go to paslc.gov, look up any property, look up the millage rate, whatever. But the easy way, the way I do it, is I'm going to look at a tax bill and say, okay, this person is paying $63,1567, right? Because this is based on your value. Non-ad valorem is not based on your value. So this person's neighbor could have a home worth twice as much or half as much, and their non-ad valorem is likely going to be exactly the same. Okay. So this one here, PSL, that's, I'm guessing, for everybody in Port St. Lucie. Everybody's going to have that same line. Stormwater tradition O&M, that's probably only going to apply to people in tradition, but it's probably going to apply to everybody in tradition. This bond right here, PSL solid waste, that's going to apply to specific people who took that bond on, not everybody. So it's going to be different in different areas. But this area up top, well, even that'll be different depending upon which county you're in. Are you in the city? Are you not in the city? Everything else. But if you're in roughly the same area as this home, I can say, okay, what are you buying the home for? Let's say you're buying the home for 500 grand. Okay, you're buying it for 500 grand. Are you going to homestead it? Let's just say the answer is yes. Okay. So now your 500 grand, I'm assuming, is going to get a taxable value right around 90%, which is 450. But then you're going to take the $50,000 homestead exemption off. So that brings you down to 400 is what you're going to be taxed on. Okay, well, I know, let me bring a calculator up. I know that we're paying $63,1567 on a taxable value of, and this isn't perfect because the school's number is a little bit higher, but I'm going to say 270, which is that amount. So I can take that amount times your 400 grand, and you're going to be paying roughly $91.77 in taxes. But then you've got to add in this non-ad valorem. So assuming they're in the same area with the same non-ad valorem assessments, I would add in 182738, which is this number right down here. And a person buying a $500,000 home in this area and homesteading it would be paying taxes of roughly $11,000. Now, might it be 10,300? Might it be 11,600? Absolutely. But it's not going to be 15 grand and it's not going to be 7,500. So we've got a pretty good estimate of where we're going to be. So again, if you live in a home currently, you can look at your tax bill, you can do that math, you can crunch it out. If you don't, you can go look up any address in Port St. Lucie. You can look at their tax bill, you can run that math, you can calculate it out. If that's too much for you, which I'm guessing for most people it is going to be, you can literally DM, text, or call me, and I can do that quick math for you. It takes me about 30 seconds. Or you can call the county. Let me see if I can get the county number here. I'll read it for you guys one time. The appraiser's office is, I know it ends in 1000, 772-462-1000. That's 772-462-1000. Or you can email them at info@paslc.gov. Again, that's info at P for port. No, that's not true. P for property, A for appraiser, SLC for St. Lucie County.gov, paslc.gov. So you can call them or you can email them and they'll get you a really good estimate of where you're going to be. They're also going to push you to that estimator that they've got online, which is conservative. Whatever number that says, I rarely see people going over that number. I do see people often coming under that number. I think my number tends to be, man, I'm going to get in trouble with the appraiser's office now, a little bit more accurate sometimes than that estimator, but I wouldn't say my number is conservative either. My number is accurate. Theirs is conservative. So if you like their number, you're going to be very happy. If you like my number, it could actually come in a little bit higher or lower, depending upon how the year goes. You see that particular property drop 20,000 in value like that in 1 year. Well, it could go the other way, 50, 70, 100,000 in 1 year, right? That's why the estimator and I are not always accurate. You'll see some differences there. So anyway, guys, hopefully that wasn't so nerdy that I lost you guys. And like I said, if it is too much, feel free to reach out to me or the county. Happy to help you in any way, but make sure you understand that fully. What I hate to see is people buying these homes. They see the $4,000 in taxes that the current owner is paying. They assume that's theirs. They have not planned for that jump to, in this case, $11,000. Now it goes up $7 grand, which is over $500 a month. And they think, oh, what just happened? My realtor totally screwed me. My title company didn't tell me. The city, the county are horrible. And really none of that is true. Well, I would argue your realtor is if they haven't explained that to you. You just need to be educated, right? So there's your education. A big plus to that is once you own in Florida, you start getting those caps like the 80-year-old man who's got the $900 tax bill got, and you start racking up all those savings. And now, even though your taxes might be high now, if you stay in Florida for 20, 30, 40 years, your taxes are going to be incredibly low. That's, of course, assuming that DeSantis doesn't get them removed. So they might feel high now, but they're going to feel low in the future. Oh, by the way, you can move home A to home B, and you got portability, meaning all that Save Our Homes money, you can use it, assuming you're buying at price, what you sold for, or higher. And if you sell for under, then you get that percentage of it. So if you sell something worth 5 and you buy something worth 4, that's 80%. You get 80% of it. That's not perfect math, but it's pretty doggone close, right? So hopefully that helps. Any questions, reach out. Thanks for joining me. We're here every single Friday, 11 o'clock. Have a fantastic weekend. Take care.